This is going to be Dakota's first ride with the saddle on, so that's very exciting for me and for her. So you've seen her videos where we've lunged with the saddle on, desensitized with the saddle, we did tons of work with that, we ground drove, we did all that. So now I'm moving on to actually sitting in the saddle and getting her used to that. So I'm going to spend some time working on that. I don't have her bridle on, we don't have any reins. I'm just working on reminding her that it's the same process as when I was riding her bareback, but just with the saddle. So I obviously rode her bareback extensively. She's no, used to the weight of the rider, so hopefully she just kind of takes right to it. And she's pretty straightforward when it comes to stuff like that. She's not real worried. She doesn't look super concerned. I think she's more wondering when her next treat is going to be than anything. So I did that regular review where I got on and got off. I did that in the beginning a little bit too. And then I do have my feet out of the stirrups just in case, because I want her to get used to this feeling too. Like she's had the weight of the rider and she's had the feeling of the girth at separate times. Now they're together. So I am again trying to do this in a way that is most straightforward and comfortable for her. So that is with my ground person leading me. You don't have to do it like that, but it's easiest that way because it's just breaking it down. So we're going back to just leading. I don't have to worry about steering or doing anything. I'm moving my feet around. Now I'm going ahead and putting my feet back in the stirrups. But if I feel like she's any way tight or unsafe at all, I can pop my feet out and I can get off. So I just don't want to think like, oh, when the saddle's on, I'm going to be really safe and secure because that's not always the case. Um, for me personally, I like to be able to get off if I need to, or bail, or slide off, or do whatever. But yeah, I think it's definitely more dangerous to have like your feet in the stirrups, and that's why I've ridden bareback for as long as I have. I know we haven't done a whole lot at this point. Like, there's many reasons I want to ride in the saddle. Obviously, it's better for her back. It's better for my position. It's one of those things that she's just gonna have to do. It's good for her, and we've gotten far enough in her training where she's understanding the cues and the aids for stuff, that she's ready for it. And then also like we're starting doing trotting, and I really needed this for posting and for cantering and stuff like that. So um, I just like I did in the beginning when I was first riding her. I just did little bits of walking and desensitizing, moving around on her, and then I'll hop off, then I'll get back on. Now I'm getting on the other side, or yeah, I'm facing the other side. So I'm not going to mount from the right side normally. I'm just doing it now because I want her to know that this is the same thing. She's just sniffing my leg, so I'm going to let her. Um, I just want her to get used to that's just something that happens. Like now, like obviously I'm not that graceful at it, but now like I just get on from the left and it's not a big deal, but I do want to make sure that that's just something that happens for her. So in the beginning, this is what I do. So depending on the horse, like you might have to do this longer than I did. I think I just did this one session where I was getting on from the opposite side and getting off and having my ground person lead her because she was pretty solid with it. But a different type horse may not be. So just take the time it takes for your individual horse. So again, I'm letting my ground person lead me around. I do have like a strap on the front of the saddle, and I also can hold on to the back of the saddle, so I'm just nice and secure. But my goal and plan here is that she does get to start, if she does start to get worried, I'm going to get off. And that is not going to teach her that as soon as you get worried, like, the person would go away. That's not how it works. They were going to go into a little trot. Yeah, that was awesome. So I wanted to make sure she was cool with the walk and the trot before I went ahead and like actually did the steering myself. But back to what I was saying, it's not going to teach the horse to be like try to be tense and try to get rid of the rider. It's going to show them that you notice and recognize that they're tense, and then you can take steps to change that and get the horse back to being calm, and it's going to keep you safer. There's no point in sitting on a horse that's either getting tense or is tense. There's just no point. Um, it's for safety for both of you, and things can just get out of hand from there. But so I'm just kind of giving him some instructions on where I'd like to go or what I'd like to do. I'm going to be moving around, be moving my feet, and maybe touching around the hindquarters, changing positions. I just want to do that right away from the beginning. Like this is what normal riding is like. Like so that I don't want to go up there and just freeze and then I move and she gets scared. That's definitely not what we want to do. I want to make sure she's totally cool with me moving, with me asking her to do stuff, and all the stuff that comes with riding. So over time here, I will start asking her and cueing her to do things, um, besides just having my ground person lead her. but right now I just want to do lots of desensitizing and reward her. I definitely, looking back, would do a lot more rewarding of her. As you'll see with her later videos, I do a lot more clicking, treating for different things, a lot more rewarding. So I would have definitely added that in, but at the time, this is what I thought was best, so that's what we did. Which I guess I would still definitely start a horse like this, but I definitely would add in some more clicker training. Do a little bit of trot. Awesome. And she's like, "Where's my cookie at?" So I like that. Like for me, when they stop and are like looking to me, like I'll go ahead and feed her on the other side because I don't want to just give it to her on that same side that she was asking it from. But I like that because a lot of times when you're training a horse with just negative reinforcement, they're usually looking out. They're like, "Oh my gosh, something scary. What's over there? Where's my friends at? Where's the barn?" Like they're looking for something else. And with this, they're looking for me and when they're going to get their next reward. Like you do have to know the difference in the head and neck position because she'll kind of raise her head up and kind of turn toward me. So you do have to pay attention to that body language because it could look similarly to like when a horse raises their head up and gets tense and worried, but it's not. She's listening behind me and she's picking her head up so that she can turn it and look for to me. That's very common in clicker trained horses that are being ridden or like horses that have been asked to like back up or stay still. So do another little practice test trot here. So we had the same reaction there. She stopped, she heard that click, and she's got her head around and she's like, okay, where's my reward? So I definitely like that. She wasn't getting worried about me being up there in the saddle at all, the girth, nothing. Like this looks great. So I'm very, very happy with how this looks for her. Um, for her, like I did just a little bit of stuff. Like we definitely could have done a ton more desensitizing, a lot more steps. For her, she just didn't need it. She accepted the saddle, she accepted the rider, she was fine with them combined together. And I'm going to be in different positions in the saddle, like I'm standing in my stirrups. I'm working on some posting here because I think that was my main thing that I was thinking about is I wanted to do some posting and do like more trot steps and get her a little going a little bit more faster and more forward. And so I wanted to make sure she was cool with posting because now I'm moving up above her and the saddle might squeak or something. So I wanted to make sure she was cool with that. Went ahead and did that at the walk a little bit. Um, and she's much more willing to go into the trot. And then she's like, "Where's my treat at? Where's it at?" So definitely, I don't want that much tension. She was very tense and like getting the treat. I do want to get rid of that, and I do end up doing that. So I wouldn't recommend that. But I do like how willing she was to get into it, and then I just hopped off instead of giving her a reward because she was too intense about the treat. So, which I'll show later how I worked on that. But I'm gonna go ahead and pop on the bridle and work with that a little bit. So I am going to desensitize her a little bit to my dressage whip here. I want her to hear it move around the saddle and make like a rustling sound on her pad. All those things that can worry horses in the beginning, especially if they haven't before. She has somewhat because she's been ground driven and lunged a lot, and you've seen me do the desensitizing while lunging and while ground driving with the driving whip and with the lunge whip. So she should understand that pretty well, but I do want to make sure that she's cool with that because we have changed the context. I am riding her, she's wearing the bridle, so there are different things, but she's feeling really good about it. She's more worried about the food right now, and that's totally fine. I am going to work on that, but I am going to let my ground person let me go and cruise around and see how it goes. So I was thinking from the last one when we were working on the bridle and steering and riding with the bridle bareback, where she was a little bit more confused by having him attached and wasn't really sure where to steer to. So I thought it would just be easier if I just went ahead and rode her on my own. So she was speeding up a little bit there, and I just kind of bent her to a stop again. I needed to work on that hindquarter and getting the hindquarter engaged there and stepping underneath, but I do like that she is walking off at a decent pace. That's a big deal for her, but not too much. I don't want her to just trot off whenever, but as long as she stays in the walk, I'm cool with that. So I just want her to kind of get used to me being on her back and being in the saddle. That's the idea here. I just want to review the things that we've been working on. I'm just working on steering a little bit, and then you see her stop. That's just kind of her reaction right now. We're working on it. Like just here, I'm asking her to go to the right, and she wants to stop instead, and then she'll go ahead and follow there, and I'll let go. So that's just kind of her natural reaction to it. It's not a bad one. It could be a lot worse, definitely, but I am working on that. There we go. So that's much better. I would like that right hind leg to step underneath her, but we will take it. Um, so it is better than before. It's better than just having the neck, but I would like that inside hind leg to step up underneath her. So, and then it is important for her to stand and just hang out for a little bit and not just leave every single time. Um, like as soon as we stop and stand, I don't want her just walking off on her own. So I do want to build this in. I'll go ahead and let her kind of chew on her bit here. That's still a new thing for her. Adjust things. I want to move around. I don't want her to think me doing a certain thing means go forward. Because if you get into like habits of doing stuff, like I accidentally, like inadvertently taught her to go forward when I like pet her on the neck. I would pet her on the neck and then she would go forward. Or I did that with Rhett. I did that with one of them, but it was just like a habit that I didn't even know that I had that I would do. Or I would say like good girl, and then I would stop, so she would start stopping off of that. So just trying to think about those things that you might do and not even realize that the horse might think is a cue. So that's why I don't like to just go and be like, oh, the horse is being bad. It's like, what am I doing to cause it? So those were kind of some of the examples that I had of what I was doing with her. That's why I'm doing a lot more patting here, because I believe it was with her. It might have been with Rhett as well, where I would pet her and she would want to stop immediately, which is again not a horrible thing. I inadvertently trained that, so I want it off of like whoa and my seat and the bit, and not off petting. So, but as long as she feels good and she's responding and she doesn't feel tense at all, I'm gonna let her just cruise around um, with me riding her in the saddle. So we're actually like doing some riding. And I know a lot of people do this. Wait, like this is their first ride. This is how I like to do it. I like to build things up. I don't want to overface them. I don't want to scare them. This is like the most important time when just in general, when a animal or a person sees something for the first time, it's a lot easier to either add a positive or a negative association with that thing or place or activity. So it's really important in the beginning with these horses that everything is positive and good and nothing's scary or aversive or painful. I don't want any of those things. So I like to take my time and make sure that it's done right and she feels good about it too. So ask her to go forward. She kind of was working on a little bit of hindquarter yield there. Bending twist out is still rough, but she's got the stop down. She's good at that. But it was just me not paying attention to the hindquarters was the main part. We're getting better at the steering, definitely to the left too. She's a lot better going that way. Just getting a little stuck here. So I'm just going to unstick her feet. So instead of just asking her to go forward, I'll pull her to one direction or the other, or lead her to one direction or the other to show her that she can go forward. So that's why, like, there was a couple examples there where she was a little sticky. That's why when I say, like, she's going forward and she's at a good pace for her, like, right now she's doing this hindquarter yield thing instead of going forward. She's just confused on what it is that I want. So I'm trying to unstick her feet and have my ground person kind of add some forward momentum there. And she's just a little confused. So I just went ahead and had him go ahead and lead her forward. So I don't know if it was just too many different things together or if it was, the saddle or something. I'm not sure exactly what it was that she got, that she didn't want to go forward for, because she definitely did in the beginning. When I first got on her, she just wanted to go forward, and then she's getting a little sticky. I think it's because our steering isn't that great, and so she's not super sure what to do with that, and she doesn't think she can go forward into it because she's not a forward horse anyway. So that's where I'm thinking it's coming from. I could be wrong. I think a part of that too is we were working on the hindquarter yield, because here she's doing that on her own. So I think I was working on it, I was rewarding it, and now she's just offering it to me, and she's kind of stuck there. But she doesn't look super tense and like, oh my gosh, like I don't think she's gonna like rear or like do anything like that. I definitely could build up that way if I didn't unstick her feet or didn't, figure out a way to fix it without, punishing her or something like that. But I think that's what it is, because I'm ending up here where she's just stepping, and then there I can get. So what I also could have done was get that hindquarter, get that inside hind moving underneath, and then ask her to go forward. So I think that was the big part of it too, is I didn't do a lot of asking her to go forward out of the hindquarter yield. And so she would hindquarter yield and stop. And then since I've been working on that to try and fix it, I think she was just stuck doing that. So I think that was part of it. And I think the bit had a bit to do with it as well. She didn't want to go forward as much. So, and she had a better hindquarter yield. She was like stepping up underneath herself. So I rewarded that. And then I'll let her go on. But yeah, I think part of it is that bit where in the steering, because she do this in the halter as well, like I'd pick up and she wants to stop immediately. So when I try to steer her and go forward, she just wants to stop, and that's just getting her stickier as well. And she just has a natural tendency to want to stop. So I'll let her stop and rest. And I am rewarding her for that steering there. I definitely could have done more of that for sure. So I'm just gonna let her stop and rest. I do want to be careful about how long I do this because she can, and she already has, already has a magnet right there by my ground person where I stop and stand there next to him. And so as you've seen in the last couple of videos, she really wants to stand next to him and take that break. So that's a good example of how that can happen really quickly. And in places where like you go stand next to your trainer or you stand next to another horse or like if you're in a group lesson and you're lined up next to the horses, you can create a horse's magnet really quickly that way. So I'm pretty happy with that little stretch there where she did like about a half a lap of the round pen actually going forward. I'm not going to push it because this is her first time with me with the saddle and the bridle on my own. So, and this is kind of a new thing where she was getting kind of sticky. So, since she did that about half a lap, I'm just going to go ahead and reward her and call it a day. Like I'm think it's easier to just like we'll fix some things and not get too worried because definitely I have a tendency to get frustrated and she's 3, these are all new things for her, so it's not a big deal. But I am going to show just how I end up untacking at the end of the day, because that's like I was talking about with magnets and stuff. That's also important. I'm just going to take her away from the gate and take off her saddle over there. It's just important that I'm not taking it off right at the gate, and I probably even could have taken her like to the opposite side of the pen while I went ahead and like did up my stirrups and stuff. So that's just how I would end the session usually.